Have you ever walked into a hospital, once full of hope and purpose, and suddenly felt empty? Like the walls that used to echo with compassion now just hum with exhaustion? You're not alone. Every day, nurses, doctors, and caregivers who once saw their work as a calling find themselves losing faith in the system, in people, even in God's presence at work. The truth is, it's not just about healthcare burnout or long shifts. It's about losing a piece of your soul in the very place you thought you were saving lives. But here's the twist. Maybe this breaking point isn't the end of your faith. It's the start of finding it again. What if God never left the hospital? We just stopped noticing him. What if restoring purpose and compassion, fatigue relief, wasn't found in another motivational talk, but in rediscovering faith and healing from the inside out? Whether you're a Christian doctor wondering about your calling, a nurse seeking emotional healing, or just someone searching for hope for caregivers, this story might just bring that spark back. Because this isn't just about medicine, it's about faith and medicine walking hand in hand again. It's about spiritual renewal in a place where miracles happen quietly, behind surgical masks and prayer-whispered hallways. So, let's dive in, not just into the heartbreak of losing faith, but into the beauty of finding faith again where it was lost. When purpose fades behind the mask. There's a quiet moment that every healthcare worker faces, when the rush of purpose starts to fade and exhaustion takes its place. The nurse who once prayed before every shift now just prays to make it through the night. The doctor who saw each patient as a calling now feels trapped in paperwork, protocols, and burnout recovery plans that don't seem to heal the soul. It's not that faith in healthcare disappears overnight, it erodes slowly, hidden under layers of stress, sleeplessness, and the silent ache of compassion fatigue. Imagine a Christian nurse who used to see God's hand in every small recovery. Over time, the constant losses, the endless demands, and the lack of gratitude start to chip away at her spirit. She begins to wonder, where is God in the hospital now? That's how many lose faith, quietly, without realizing it. The once burning flame of purpose in medicine dims into a tired routine, leaving hearts running on fumes instead of faith. But here's the thing. Even when faith seems gone, it's not dead, it's buried. Beneath the burnout, there's still a whisper of calling waiting to be rediscovered. The truth is, losing faith might be the very first step toward finding faith again. Because sometimes when everything feels numb, God is quietly setting the stage for renewal, for rediscovering his plan, even in the suffering. And that's where the story starts to turn. The silent cry of the caregiver. Behind every calm face in a hospital hallway, there's a story few ever hear. The Christian doctor who comforts families during tragedy often drives home in silence, questioning his own faith and purpose. The nurse who offers hope to patients feels her own hope slipping away in the late-night quiet of the break room. This is the unseen side of healthcare burnout, the emotional toll that drains even the strongest souls. Faith during burnout becomes less about miracles and more about survival, about holding on when prayer feels unanswered. In those moments, the hospital feels like holy ground turned battlefield. Christian healthcare workers wrestle not just with sickness, but with their own doubts. Is God's plan in this suffering? Why does it feel like he's gone? Yet even in those doubts, something sacred lingers. The faint reminder that faith and medicine were never meant to be separate. Healing isn't only physical, it's deeply spiritual. Emotional healing for nurses and mental renewal for doctors often begins the moment they dare to be honest about their weariness. That honesty, raw as it is, becomes the first act of courage. Because admitting the struggle isn't weakness, it's worship in disguise. It's where spiritual healing begins. Many have found that prayer for healthcare workers, even whispered in exhaustion, can reignite what fatigue has smothered. And once that small flame of faith flickers again, something beautiful begins to unfold, something that transforms how they see their calling altogether. When faith walks back into the room. Something powerful happens when faith finds its way back into the hospital. It doesn't always come through a miracle. It often walks in quietly, wearing scrubs. Maybe it's a Christian nurse who pauses to pray over a patient while adjusting their IV, or a Christian doctor who takes an extra minute to comfort a grieving family instead of rushing to the next chart. These small moments of grace remind everyone that God's presence at work never left. It was simply waiting to be noticed again. That's how faith and purpose in healthcare start to intertwine once more. For many, faith restoration begins when they stop trying to fix their burnout alone and start inviting God into it. A nurse burned out by endless shifts might start her morning with a verse like Isaiah 40:31. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. A doctor struggling with compassion fatigue might start a simple prayer for healthcare workers before rounds. These tiny acts, repeated daily, rebuild the bridge between faith and medicine, turning sterile hospital corridors into places of quiet spiritual renewal. And slowly, they begin to see what they'd missed all along. That faith at work isn't about perfection, but presence. It's about seeing God's plan in suffering, His light in long nights, His comfort in chaos. That's when the hospital stops being just a workplace and becomes something sacred again, a place where purpose and calling breathe life into weary souls. Yet this rediscovered faith doesn't just heal individuals, it begins to spread, reshaping entire teams and communities. The ripple effect of restored faith. When one person rediscovers faith in the hospital, it's like lighting a candle in a dark room. It doesn't just brighten their space, it gives others permission to hope again. A Christian nurse who once struggled with burnout suddenly becomes the encourager she wished she had. A doctor who once questioned his calling begins mentoring younger healthcare workers, reminding them that purpose in medicine is more than just procedures, it's ministry. This is how faith-based healing spreads, one story, one act of compassion, one prayer at a time. You see it in the way teams begin to shift. The atmosphere changes when faith and healing return to the heart of medicine. Healthcare spirituality transforms sterile routines into sacred rituals. Checking vitals becomes caring for souls, not just bodies. When Christian healthcare workers start viewing their rounds as moments of service rather than survival, burnout recovery becomes possible. Purpose and calling breathe new energy into their daily grind, and that light catches on faster than anyone expects. And here's the beauty of it. This renewed faith doesn't just heal those in scrubs. Patients feel it too. Families sense it in the way they're treated, prayed for, and loved through their pain. God's presence at work becomes tangible, almost visible, in every kind word and compassionate gesture. But as faith grows stronger, so does the realization that maintaining it isn't automatic. It requires daily intention, spiritual renewal, and a heart that keeps listening. Living faith beyond the burnout. Once faith is restored, the real challenge begins, keeping it alive in the daily chaos of healthcare. Christian doctors and nurses quickly learn that faith and medicine must walk side by side, not as separate worlds, but as one purpose-driven calling. It's about starting each day with prayer, even if it's whispered between patients, and ending each shift with gratitude, even on the hard days. Faith during burnout transforms from a fragile hope into a steady rhythm, reminding every caregiver that they were never working alone. Many find that creating small rituals of renewal keeps their faith strong. Some gather in short hallway prayers before shifts. Others start faith and medicine groups where Christian healthcare workers share stories, devotionals, and encouragement. These simple acts bring emotional healing for nurses, restore purpose for doctors, and remind everyone that spiritual healing is part of the prescription for both patients and caregivers. When God's presence is invited back into the hospital, it becomes a place not just of physical recovery, but of divine restoration. And from there, something extraordinary happens. Faith and purpose in healthcare move beyond the hospital walls. Christian encouragement spreads into families, communities, and even patients who go on to inspire others. This isn't just a story about burnout recovery. It's a testimony of faith restoration, of finding God in hard times, and discovering that every act of care can be a form of worship. Because when faith and healing unite, miracles start to look a lot like everyday work done with extraordinary love. Maybe you felt that same quiet ache, the sense that your calling in healthcare has lost its spark. But here's the truth. Losing faith isn't failure, it's an invitation to rediscover what drew you here in the first place, to see your work not just as a job, but as a sacred partnership between faith and medicine. God never left the hospital. He's been walking those halls with you all along, waiting for you to notice Him again. So now the question is, what will you do with that renewed faith? Will you start the day with a small prayer before your shift? Will you reach out to another caregiver who's burning out and remind them of their purpose and calling? Or maybe you'll begin journaling how you see God's plan in suffering and healing each day. Whatever you choose, remember, spiritual renewal doesn't happen overnight. It happens every time you choose compassion over exhaustion, purpose over pressure, and faith over fear. If this message stirred something in you, if you felt even a flicker of hope, don't let it fade. Keep growing, keep learning, keep finding faith again and again. And hey, if you want more stories, encouragement, and real talk about faith and healing in the world of healthcare, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Together, let's keep shining God's light where it's needed most, right there in the heart of the hospital.